The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. So today's topic is simply a path of faith. And I labeled it a path because it's one of many, many, many paths. And I didn't label it the path because it's not an authoritative, absolute the path. And I really didn't label it my path because it's a little bit broader than me, my, and myself. So it's a path. And that means it's born out of my experience and not necessarily anybody else's. However, I hope there's something here that you can find helpful. So I like stories. I'll start with one. I have some others. I was reflecting on what we do to create self-image. You know, it seems like I was just sitting there thinking about that as, you know, and is that a helpful thing to do, to create a self-image? So I was just sitting there quietly reflecting, and up popped this image that I have carried around for 65 years. Unbelievable. I was so surprised. But this image was very clear, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this. So I was in my early 20s, going to university, and for some reason I latched on this image that I will explain. So this image, I don't know why it was so clear after all this time, but here it is. I was 20-something years old, and I wanted to be smart. So I was sitting in this chair, kind of in a, you know, contemplating some intelligent thing, you know. But the thing is, I had a cigarette in my hand, you know, because for me that was the image, was that to be sitting there contemplating, and you could, you know, I don't know, do all that. But that's what I did. So what did I do? I started smoking cigarettes because I thought that perhaps if I did that, maybe I would be this image, smart. 65 years ago. But this, you know, you got to give us all credit for being who we are whenever we were, at whatever age we were. So I felt like I was, on further reflection, I was trying to, and I think we do this, probably all of us do this, I was trying to make a self-image and cramming it into a container. You know, like, here's one, you know, so this was one of them. And I was trying to make a little container out of it, as if it would have some results. Well, what I found is that, let's see, let me catch up with here. That the container, you know, I kept adding more and more of these kinds of ideas of self-image, you know, and they would just pop up, and I would think, oh, you know, I wouldn't intentionally do it, but I was trying to build it into something. But what I found is the more positive things, the good things that I wanted to put in the container, like this smart young person that was very intelligent, et cetera, and so on, all kinds of things. It was like the container got really stuffed, and what happened was like a jack-in-the-box. Things would pop up. And they wouldn't be these wonderful ideas, but they would be things like anger, frustration, you know, all the things that I was trying to not see and believe that was part of me. So I kind of decided now, that was part of my Dharma, now is to realize that I tried really hard, and I don't have to criticize myself for being a 20-something, trying to, you know, do whatever I was doing. You know, it's okay. It's really okay. And but what I can do on reflection is not believe in that so much. I don't need to carry that. So I think I've let that one go. One thing, I don't smoke cigarettes, which is nice anymore. I gave that up. And let me just kind of, and I'm not so from that, I'm not so, I don't believe in that idea of self-image quite so much. And these kinds of reflections, I mean, it was ridiculous 65 years ago, have this image, but there it was. And I worked through that. So for me, that is a path of faith. So that adds to it. Okay. And what I found is that no matter how many ideas I have, how much of a collection I have, brought together, that idea to make a self-image, it just simply doesn't pan out. There's no kind of thing there that is a self-image. It just is all these ideas that are just kind of randomly stuffed into the container. And then what happens too, just I think in the Course for all of us, is we have ideas about self-images that we need to defend. We want to not just have a self-image, but we want to have something that's a self-image that we need to convince other people that it is something that they need to accept. Good luck with that one, but anyway. And so what happens, I think all of us happen, for one degree or another, we need to defend it. And so that can also be taken to a point of not only defending it, but taking it the next step where if you don't believe what I'm saying here, that you can get violent about it. And it's just a process that happens. And we're trying to, so hard we try, so much energy to make this self-image who we want to be. And it just simply I think if you live long enough, it just doesn't work. However, that doesn't mean that we don't do it, or people in the world don't do it. And so part of this process of a path of faith for me is, I like this as a quote from a Buddhist writer. And she says, the focus is on what's coming rather than what's going. In other words, to be more open to things coming our way rather than what's going. Like the going is, to me, is like what we put into container and try to control. But to be more open to things that are coming our way. And the more we can do that, let go of this image of self-image, then the more we have some space to allow things to come our way that will teach us some very different things, like we are not our self-image. Okay. But getting back to thinking or insisting you are right, and everybody else is wrong or whatever, it can be very strong, right? And the issue here is not that we have these views, but that we stand on them. We want to make them a something. And that's where we can get into trouble, is to insist on that. By insisting, that's how you stand on something. If it's just an idea, it can come and go and get in the mix with everything else. But standing on it gets us into trouble. And I have another story. This is a really good story. I really like this one. Okay? And this one is about thinking your view is certain and the only right one. Okay. It's a little long, but it's a great story. Let's see if I can do it justice. And this was, again, from a Buddhist writer. It just struck me as a good story. Okay. It's about a hat. Okay, here we go. There was a God who knew how men and women loved to believe things to be true and make clubs and religions and political systems with the people that agreed with them. They just loved to make something out of nothing and write its name on a big banner and march down the street, waving and yelling and screaming. Only the people who believed the opposite came toward them with their banner, yelling and screaming. This God decided to try to prove a point about the human condition so that the people might, in seeing the absurdity, have a good laugh. He constructed a great big hat divided right down the middle, the left side of which was brilliant blue, and the right side was flaming red. Then he went to a place where many people were working in the fields on the left side of the road, and many other people were working in the fields on the right side of the road. There the God manifested in all his glory. No one could miss him. Big and radiant, wearing his hat, he walked straight down the road. All the people on the right side of the road dropped their hoes and looked up at this God. All the people on the left side of the road did the same. Everyone was amazed. Then he disappeared. Everyone shouted, "We saw God! We saw God!" Both sides of the road. They were full of joy until someone on the left said, "There he was in all his radiance and his red hat." And the people on the right said, "No, his hat was blue." This disagreement escalated until people built walls and began to throw stones at each other. Sound familiar? We can relate to this. Then the God appeared again. This time he walked in the other direction and disappeared. Now all the people looked at each other, and the ones on the right said, "Oh, you were right. He did have a red hat. We're so sorry. We just saw incorrectly. You were right and we were wrong." The ones on the other side said, No, you were right. We were wrong." At this point, they didn't know whether to fight or make friends. Most of them were completely puzzled by the situation. Then the God appeared again. This time he stood in the middle and he turned to the left and then he turned to the right. And everyone started to laugh. I like that story. But it makes a good point how we can take ourselves so seriously, so ever so seriously. And, maybe that is not the case, that there's a lot more to the story than what we see. So faith is not an idea that we can stand on. It's not set. In fact, it's formless. Because when we make the effort to live the Dharma, we become open to what comes our way without trying to be anyone or anything in particular. And with the aspiration to benefit all things, this is what I do in my daily life without an agenda of what that might mean. So being open without expectations, faith in action, in living the Dharma as best I can. And again, the quote, the focus is on what's coming rather than on what's going. Okay. And then just another quick story about when I was an early novice monk, or early on when I was a novice monk, I thought training was about being perfect. Not an unusual thing to think, but there I was. So I was trying to understand how to be a Buddhist with perfection, okay, and become perfect. And I said to myself, what would that look like? And I said, well, suffering would completely be non-existent, and I would be joyful all the time. And I said, well, that's another idea that didn't prove true for me, and that's okay. But I had to, I believed that, and I had to bring it to light to see that, yeah, well, that's what I did do. That's the silence and the reflection. But again, it just was an idea that had enough validity to kind of weigh in on it, if that makes sense. And then I thought to carry on with the idea of a path of faith, which is grounded in our lives. That's what I find. It's not some idea that you can grab onto and make it into something. It is getting to the reality of the practice, and that's what makes good sense to me. So one day I just recorded all the things that were just coming my way, that I just dealt with in a way of path of faith. And these are really normal, nothing to, anything about it. It's just normal, mundane stuff. One is I observed a person that was walking and their movements were really calm. And I said, I don't need to hurry around. I saw what she was doing and I thought, I can slow down. Okay. The other one was I didn't have to engage with my upsetness. I could just let it be and do what needs to be done. Just let that go and not kind of engage in all the just see what needs to be done. Letting go of my opinions and judgment. This is all as best I could. I'm still very, very human. And here's another one. So I was watching one day, I was watching myself, I don't know, a situation came my way, and I could see myself, being open to what was coming, but then I could see myself put a little pebble in my pathway. And then I could see myself putting a bigger pebble in the pathway. And then it became a stone, and then it became a boulder. And then I had to do something about it because I, couldn't move forward. It was what I was seeing was my opinions or my stuckness or whatever I was looking at. And I thought, I can see that I do that, and it's a natural process. And do I want to do it? No. Do I have to do it? I don't know. Maybe there's something there that I need to see. But I can look at it in that light. I mean, is it helping me out? Is it helping other people out? That's kind of stuff. So that was just kind of one day I just recorded those things, and that was the way I could bring a path of faith, make it my day more. That's all, just more. And let's see. And a really important part of this, my life, my path, or a path, is for me to take the time to meditate. That is really important, because I can, and in meditation, I can sometimes be silent and reflective. And that silence and reflection helps me out to develop, cultivate, gives me something that I can do when I come to daily life, has its effects. And I can, again, grab onto it and make it into something. And the name of our tradition that we practice is Serene Meditation Reflection. That's the name of the English translation of our Soto Zen practice. So I thought, yes. And I'm going to end with a poem that's in our kitchen office bulletin board. That's very simple, but it makes a point. Very simple. The heart must have its time of snow, to rest in silence and then to grow. That's my talk for today. Thank you.